All right. Here we go. Hey, buddy. All right, we'll give it 30 seconds. Let some people get in. So we just watched the halftime video. It's pretty fun, hey? It's I don't know. I find it really fascinating because there's a lot of people I know that do halftime shows and trying to just figure out how to actually set it up properly. We kind of had a plan and didn't really go to plan, but that's why it worked out so well. You know, the goal was to get the end zone catch in the first 3 throws, and then it was impossible to tell how far it was actually going from where we were. So it was pretty cool, just the way that the announcer and I worked together. So Joe McFarland was the on-field announcer, and he gave me an extra throw at the end, which is the throw that most people have seen. It's the throw that went viral, and you just never really know what'll happen. You know, the conditions were perfect. It was actually raining all day, and I did a radio interview Saturday morning and was just basically resigned to the fact that it might be pouring rain during the halftime show, and I'm like, we have to make the best of it. And then about 2 hours before kickoff, the rain stopped, and it was perfect. So it's pretty wild what happens. All right, there's a couple questions that I've gotten from people, so let me just start answering them. If you have questions, just feel free to go ahead and type them in the chat. So this is the first question we got from somebody. So they said, why whippets? So Sailor's actually a border whippet. He's a mix between a border collie and a whippet. I first started competing with whippets in 2011 when I met Davey Whippet. I had never heard of a whippet before. I had heard of greyhounds because of the Greyhound bus. And when I first met Davey, he kind of reminded me of the dog, Santa's little helper on The Simpsons. And so just really fell in love with the breed. If you've never been around a whippet or spent time with a whippet, they are arguably the second fastest dog in the world behind a greyhound. So a greyhound is about 60, 70 pounds. A whippet's usually about 30 pounds. And they are so fast. On a long track, greyhounds are faster because they're bigger, have longer strides. But for acceleration, for short track, I'd say whippets are faster for sure. And so just pretty interesting spending time with them because not only are they that fast, but they're also that lazy. When they're at home, they just sleep all the time. And so you can see Sailor in my arms just kind of chilling and sleeping right now. So yeah, they're really cool that way, that they're such an athletic dog, such an athletic breed, but they really just do love to chill. And the cool thing about Sailor being a border collie is he has that extra drive. So whippets, if it's cold, if they're kind of tired, they'll stop running. And that was a big concern of mine actually during the halftime show. If you just watch the halftime show at the very end, my second last throw, I was just making sure he was okay because he was breathing pretty heavy. And it's like, if he doesn't want to go, he will tell me. I don't want to push him past his limit. So he's got the drive, he's got the speed, and you can see that he's got the off switch. He's pretty chill. So enjoying just being here. Okay, another question here we have. So what breeds for dog quote-unquote performance shows? So really depends on what performance you're doing. Whippets are great. They tend to not be great for freestyle. I know people that do whippets for freestyle, but so if you're doing like more freestyle stuff, which a lot of my friends do, so they'll have the dogs going between their legs, through their legs, jumping over them, jumping off of them. Border collies, Aussie shepherds, McNabs. What else? Yeah, they're cattle dogs. Cattle dogs are good too. So if you go to like a dog competition, so I compete quite a bit in the U.S. and it's mostly border collies, mostly Aussie shepherds. You're seeing more and more mixed breeds. We call them sort of sport breeds. So that's what the border whippet is a sport breed. So border whippets are good for flyball because it's about pure speed. Agility, border collies, Aussie shepherds are good for that. lure coursing, so running in a field, essentially it's chasing after a rabbit. It's like a plastic bag, basically. Whippets and greyhounds are good for that. So it really depends on what you're doing. And so you can get a dog as a pet and have a certain kind of pet at home. So a whippet that just sleeps all the time. Or you can get a dog for a certain performance or a certain sport. So, if you live in northern Canada where it's super cold, you're not going to have a whippet pulling the dog sled. But if you're doing things where, you want to do dock diving, for example, then you may not want to have like a 5-pound dog, right? Whippet actually holds the world record for dock diving as well, the longest distance. So how many hours have you trained with Sailor? So I get this question a lot. So I'm not Sailor's trainer. I'm actually Sailor's thrower. So people call me the fun uncle. So my friend Lara, who owned Davy Whippet and owns all the dogs that I compete with, actually, I don't know, we just have an agreement. It's just worked out really well. She has super athletic dogs, and I like to throw Frisbees and hang out with them. So we've been friends for almost 11 years now. And so Sailor is the dog that I'm competing with right now. Davy Whippet was the dog I competed with for 6.5 years. Set quite a few world records with. And so with Sailor, I just make sure it's fun for him. Like, he had so much fun at the Stamps game. That was not work for him. That was just playing. He just loved being out there. And so it's really important that I'm not overworking him. So I'm not going out for 100 throws a day with him. The most throws I might do in one day with him is 10 throws. And usually that involves me throwing 50 or 60 throws first, just getting warmed up, and then throwing those throws to him. He actually hasn't caught a Frisbee in the last week. He's, been just chilling. We've gone for a few walks, went for a run. But for the most part, it's super important to not overwork the dog, just to make sure that they're still having fun. Just like anybody, right? People do that too. It's I like taking a break from disc golf in the wintertime, for example, because I don't want to get too tired and just get burnt out. So really important with dogs as well. Do you use treats to encourage a better workout? If so, what kind? So I don't use treats. I know a lot of people do that sort of positive reinforcement, the reward training, that if a dog does something good, they'll give him a little treat. But I think for Sailor, the treat is he gets to go and get another Frisbee. So if he comes back and doesn't drop it, I don't chase him around and try and grab it from him. If he doesn't want to drop it, then we're not going to go throw. And he's learned that. So if he wants to run after another throw, he needs to drop the disc. And sometimes I'll tug with him, especially if I'm done. And that sort of signals the end of it. If I tug with him, we're not going to be doing any more. So just very important to have that communication with the dog. I mean, they are your teammate, right? So another question, here we go. So how do you throw it so far and make it look so easy when most people can't even throw a disc a quarter that distance? Well, it's really interesting because there is a difference between throwing it just for playing and then trying to go as far as you can. So my background, I was on the track and field team in high school and went to provincials a couple times for discus and shot put, along with long jump and 100 meters. But discus and shot put I really loved. And so there, you're not just casually throwing a shot put or throwing a discus. It's not like you're playing catch with somebody. Your goal is to throw it as far as possible. And so for me, when I do Frisbee, it's the same thing. I'm throwing it as far as I possibly can. And so there is a difference between going out and casually throwing a 30-yard throw and going out and throwing it as hard as you can. So it's a lot of practice. I've been doing this for, Frisbee for 21 years, but I've been doing a lot of throwing for my whole life. And so I don't think it's that controversial, but there's a lot of people who try and come in and say, well, Frisbee's totally different. Yes, a Frisbee is different than a ball. We like to say that when a ball dreams, it dreams it's a Frisbee, but throwing is throwing. A lot of the very same mechanics, you're just understanding the object that you're throwing and how to optimally throw that object. So if I go to throw a shot put, I'm not going to throw it overhand. That would blow my shoulder apart because it's super heavy. If I throw a discus, I'm not going to throw it like a Frisbee because, again, it's very different. A baseball, you throw a ball compared to a Frisbee, you have to worry about the angle and the plane of release along that axis. But really, it's a lot of the same mechanics. So, the timing of playing hockey, hitting a baseball, swinging a golf club, throwing a baseball, shooting a basketball, serving a volleyball, a lot of those elements of timing with the hip rotation, shoulders, snapping, things like that. Physical literacy. And so People come in and say, well, throwing a golf disc is totally different than throwing a dog disc. Absolutely not. Just understand the physics of flight and understanding what you need to do in order to optimally throw that. So part of it as well is youth. I'm a young guy. If I'm 50, 60 years old, I'm not going to be able to throw that far. And, there's 20-year-olds that can throw further than me. But at the same time, a lot of it is experience. A lot of it's training. Strength matters. In particular, when you're throwing dog discs, putting a lot of snap on your wrist and putting a lot of spin on that disc. We call it angular momentum. So somebody who might be smaller than me can spin faster. They get more velocity on the disc, but I can get more snap on the disc, so I get more spin, which does lead to more distance. Another one, who/what, an athlete or event is your sport inspiration. So this one's interesting. I think I've had multiple people, multiple events in my life. Sometimes it's actually an event where I don't do very well because it drives me to do better. It sort of eats away inside of me to keep going better, keep pushing harder, keep practicing more. As far as the who, it's partially people who have pushed the limits and done something that no one else has done. And most of the time it's just tiny little quotes or just tiny little moments where I've watched sports and just watch people excel, but also watch people fail in that moment. My dad definitely is somebody, I never got to see him play football, but he was an all-Canadian football player. And he's always joked, him and I back and forth, that, he has a ring for all-Canadian. So when I won provincials for hockey, I had a ring. And over the years, as I've collected more hardware, I've continued to flex that a little bit with him. So it's kind of good-natured ribbing. He's definitely driven that competitive side within me. I don't think I'd be as competitive if it wasn't for him, for sure. And my mom definitely was a big inspiration. So she, set an example of somebody that could have a family, have a job. So she mostly was a stay-at-home mom. But later on, before she passed, she actually was working at the church. But somebody that would actually go after their passion. So every summer she would compete in golf tournaments and was on the New Brunswick team 10 times, I think. She won, I think, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, MPEI provincial. She went to nationals a few times. So, it is possible to have it all. And so she's somebody that really set an example for me. And it's not even about trying to be the best. It's just trying to be your best. And if your best is better than other people's best, it's cool. If your best is not better than anyone else's best, that's still cool. But I think when people get into trouble is when they try to be better than other people. And they're just not trying to be themselves or do their own thing. And that's really the biggest thing, is just do your own thing. Because you don't really know what other people are doing to be their best. And they may not even be trying to be their best, but you perceive it as you're trying to beat the best that they've done. And you can't control what they do. You can only focus on yourself. So yeah, definitely my mom and dad and my sister as well. She's definitely set an example over the years for me. So I appreciate that. So what's next for you in Sailor? It's the off season now. It's the winter time. There's not really much happening. Really hoping next year there will be, the travel restrictions will be lessened. I really want to go to the U.S. So my friend Derek Martin and he competes out of Virginia, and he did really well last year. Toss and fetch, went to the Hero Cup. He went to the quad. So I'd really love to go to a couple quads, a couple Hero Cups with Sailor. Ideally, line it up with Derek. I think that'd be pretty cool to actually travel to some of the same events that he's at. Part of the reason that we do this is to see our friends. And so, really hoping I can make that happen. I don't know. We'll see. So, yeah, hopefully some long distance competitions next year. And then Sailor enjoys chasing really anything, but this little mini disc. So I think next year we're going to go after the longest distance throw and catch to a dog with a mini disc. I think that'll be really cool to try out. So this one weighs, I think, like 25 grams. Super, super light, but every time I've thrown it, he's loved it. I was actually trying to play mini disc golf with my girlfriend, and Sailor was outside and couldn't play mini disc golf because every time I threw it, he'd go grab it and bring it back to me. He thought we were playing. So we'll see how that goes. Distance-wise, these are super light. I might go with a heavier mini, which is like 60 grams, still safe for him. And I have the Canadian record right now for the mini disc distance, which is about 360 feet. Not going to be throwing that same disc to him, I don't think. So it'd be cool to get, I'd say like 180, 200 feet. So like 50, 60 yards, I think would be reasonable. I think we could do that. There was a question from Daryl earlier. He was asking what disc we threw. And so I've been telling people we threw, well, it is the Supersonic 215. But I've been telling people that it was 125 grams. I actually just went and weighed it, and it's only 120 grams. So that's pretty cool. That thing just flies. This is in the pink taffy. So there's also the candy plastic. The candy plastic is see-through. I don't like the candy plastic as much because, you know, when it's really sunny outside, the sun actually shines through it, and I think it impacts the dog's ability to catch the disc. So the nice thing about taffy is it blocks the sun rays coming through that, so dogs can catch it easy. And then also because the event that we did was the Pink Power Game, so every year they have that. So Mayfair Diagnostics does on-site breast cancer screening for women, so mammograms, like a private mammogram before games, which is pretty cool. And then once a year they partner, with the Stamps to do Pink Power. So there's, Sailor's pink jacket. You can buy pink toques, pink mittens. What else was there? Yeah, and it's all the money. I think they raised $38,000 or something for the Canadian Cancer Society. So, there's the mittens. $38,000 or something. Huge amount of money for the Canadian Cancer Society. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any records you're looking to pursue now? So I sort of talked about what Sailor and I are looking at. For myself personally, I was trying to set up the world records for, it would have been self-caught flight on rollerblades or inline skates. So I have all the Guinness and the WIFTIF world records right now for self-caught flight on ice skates. I love rollerblading, so I wanted to do that. Timing didn't really work out this year, just with COVID and sponsors and things like that. So that's something I'm going to set up for next spring for sure. Partially it's trying to find the parking space or the sort of the paved space that will work, because a lot of parking lots, they're big, but they have a lot of like those little islands. There's a lot of grates in them, a lot of light posts, so it's not actually that big of a space. So I have to try and find something. Harder than you think. I need a location scout, I think, for some of my records. Other than that, there are the age division records I really want to go after. So assuming the World Overall Championships happens next summer in San Diego, really want to go after, take down my friend Rick LeBeau, his TRC world record for over 35. So it's 85.5 meters or 85.85. So I need to throw 86 meters TRC. I also want to take down the self-caught flight record, which is a combination of MTA and TRC. My friend Jack Cooksey has that. And then, the MTA world record. I think my friend Harvey has that, which is 15.38. I'll never forget that number because my best MTA is 15.37. And he reminded me of that as soon as I got it. He's like, oh, that's pretty good. He's like, my best is 15.38. So it's an amazing, all three of those records would be an honor to set for sure, to break. So that's my goal next year. And yeah, just keep pushing myself. I mean, there are other records. I think I want to go after the longest field goal or longest gridiron field goal. So you throw a disc through the uprights. I think I want to go after that one. We'll see how that. Maybe at a Stamps game, that'll be the next thing to do. The last thing I want to do is just sort of public service announcement for people that have dogs or want to get into throwing to dogs, is make sure you throw a dog safe disc. So for Sailor and any dog, please never throw an ultimate disc. These are amazing for humans to throw and catch, but for a dog, not only can they barely fit their mouth around it, but it's so deep that it will cut their gums up. Really heavy, 175 grams, so please do not throw an ultimate disc. It's not approved in any dog sport, any organization. And although you can throw a disc golf disc, like this is a driver, although that does go further than the disc that I threw to Sailor, again, not dog safe. You do not want to throw that. So please make sure that you get a dog safe disc. If you have a dog, you're already spending money on food and all that kind of stuff. So invest $30-$40 on a couple discs that are dog safe. There are quite a few different brands. Some are more durable than others. HeroDiscUSA.com. That's what I'd recommend. There are other few manufacturers, but those are the ones that I like the best. And but yeah, just do some research. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. And so much of this is just exploring what's possible, but making sure that if you're doing it with a dog, you're doing it safe. Okay, we don't want to put them in danger. That's the biggest thing. So cool. Well, that's all the time that I have. Really appreciate anyone who ended up checking this out, either live or who checks it out later. And yeah, maybe we'll do one of these again. It's my first time doing this, so hopefully the connection and the sound was okay. And just really appreciate all the support this week. It's been really mind-blowing, actually. I wasn't really sure what to expect. My first goal last weekend was to pass the COVID test. So before we even were allowed in the stadium, we had to get a negative COVID test, which we got. And then from there, just everything else has just been just crazy, actually. So again, really appreciate all the support. And if you're not into Frisbee, it's something, there's something for everyone. If you are into Frisbee, you've already discovered that, and definitely encourage you to just see what else is out there. You know, we call it the ageless game. You can play this game for a long, long, long time. So have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks.